little longer than a few minutes later.
Sup? No. Bus 213. Cluck ass bus.
I'm going to tell you about a field trip that I went on when I was in high school.
Are those seatbelts? School buses finally have seatbelts now? I tell you, I lie to you not. Every bus that I've been on, as far as like school buses, I have never had a seatbelt. And they talk about, oh, protect the kids. The future is our kids. You know, the kids are everything. But yet, the school buses didn't have no seatbelts on. But the kids is our future. Protect the kids at all costs. All right.
This particular one took place during my senior year. It was first semester, probably 3 or 4 weeks into the school year. I was in an elective class called Animal Science.
What?
It was a popular class for kids to take because it was pretty fun and easy, and you could learn about animals. We also took several field trips during the course, including 2 to the zoo that was nearby. The class had about 25 people in it in total. On the day of the field trip, we all met in class with our teacher, Miss Enfield. The class was during the second hour of the day, and we would have to miss our third hour class, but would be back for fourth. We all walked out of the school to a bus that was waiting to take us to the zoo. I remember that I boarded it and sat towards the back. I was friendly with most of the people in the class, but had no particularly close friends in it, so I just sat by myself. When I was sitting there waiting for everybody else to get on and us to leave, I went on my phone. A few minutes later, I heard the bus doors closed, and I looked up from my phone and around. I remember seeing my normal classmates, but there was this one guy in the row right across from me who I didn't recognize at all. I was pretty sure that he wasn't in our class, and I didn't really know why he was on the bus. He had a big backpack on the seat next to him, and he was looking out the window, so I couldn't really see his face. We drove the 15 minutes or so to the zoo, and when we got there, we all got out and went inside. At this time of day, the zoo was not very busy. There were a couple of people here and there, but not too many. Miss Enfield led us into an area, and after talking...
So, you just gonna talk past, like you just didn't say what you just said. You know your classmates. You know every last one of them, even if you don't interact with them. And a new ass person just hops on a bus with a backpack. Lord only knows what's in a backpack. Got it.
to us for a bit, she sort of let us look around on our own. The zoo itself, I'm guessing, was a pretty average size. Not that big, but not tiny. I haven't really been to many other zoos, so I don't have much to base it off of. But this zoo had an indoor area and an outdoor area with a paved walkway. I kind of wandered off on my own, just looking at the animals. I remember that I came to a spot on the path where nobody else really was. It was in like the back corner of the zoo. All of a sudden, I heard footsteps coming up behind me. They really startled me because they came out of nowhere. I looked back and saw the kid who had sat across from me on the bus. He was looking at me now and had his backpack on. I got a good look at him. He was kind of short and had messy brown hair. He said hi to me, but kept a very straight face. I said hi, and then I asked him if he was in our class because I didn't remember him. He told me that yes, he was in the class, but he mostly did online version. I nodded, but realized that his answer didn't make a whole lot of sense. He then said to me, "Let's go over here." He started walking up the path towards the woods. I had no interest in going with him, and I just kept standing there. When he realized that I wasn't going to follow him, he stopped and then backed up. He came right up to me and then came clean. He said that he didn't go to my school at all, and then he told me that he had a gun, and if I didn't follow him, he would use it. I wasn't sure exactly where his gun was, but I decided to follow.
I'm pretty sure with school field trips, y'all teachers or whoever's in charge of the group does like head counts. Who the hell is in charge of the head count? Huh? because that mother clucker needs to be fired and do 2 years to life. Because that's ridiculous. Unless the person that was in charge of the head count, unless the person that was in charge of the kids was in cahoots with the one with the gun. Something. Somebody was in cahoots. Because you cannot be in charge of kids, do a head count, and miss a whole ass student. And you said what, 20, 25 kids? That's not that many.
Him and see what he wanted. He took a couple of steps and then waved me in front of him. I walked off the path and we entered a wooded area. It became more and more dense and I started hitting all kinds of branches. There wasn't really any kind of trail or walkway. We were basically now just walking through the woods. He told me to keep going. I asked him where we were going, but he didn't answer me. I then started to see a clearing out to the other side of the woods. There was like a road with a car parked on it. I could just barely see this, and then I started to hear another noise from up ahead and a little bit to the right, also in the woods. The guy behind me spoke again and said, "Over here." I realized...
Again, the person that's in charge of these kids, where are they at? Because they ask. Unless they're in cahoots. Because I feel like on a school field trip, especially when you're dealing with kids, you're supposed to maintain the group of kids. See, like, if you in high school or in college, and I mean, you could probably like get away with like, I don't think you necessarily have to stay with the group. You know what I mean? It is kind of like, how you say, like, it is not mandatory. It is recommended that, you know, high schoolers and college kids stay with the group on a school field trip. But definitely with the little ass, like the middle school, elementary school, come on now.
He was talking to whoever else was in the woods. That's when I suddenly bolted to the left. It was just instincts, and they took over. I hoped that the guy didn't actually have a gun or would shoot me. I was hitting tree branches everywhere and probably got poison ivy. He chased after me, and I heard all kinds of commotion from behind me in the woods, but I wouldn't stop. I kept running until I made it back to the path. When I finally did, I was able to run much faster. The guy stayed in the woods, and whoever else was in the woods stayed in there as well. They did not come out further to chase me. I desperately looked around until I found a classmate, and I told them what was going on. By the time word got around and police were called, obviously the guys had left. Long story short, the kid didn't go to our school at all. He wasn't even high school age and was a little bit older. He also didn't actually have a gun, but was only claiming that he did. I'm not sure how exactly he snuck onto our bus, and I also don't know why he was trying to seemingly kidnap me of all people.
Somebody was in cahoots. Question everybody.
This happened several years ago,
Bus 316. Sus.
I was in high school. I believe I was a sophomore at the time. I remember that we went to an art museum in the city for a field trip. It was probably the most popular art museum in the area. I was in an advanced painting class in my school, which I really enjoyed. I wasn't even that good of a painter at all, but you didn't need to be to get into the class. All you had to do was complete the first painting course. Going to the art museum was an all-day thing. We would meet up at the start of the school day, board the bus, drive down to the museum, and be there for the entire day. We would first have a guided tour, then would be lunch in the cafeteria. After lunch, we would have about an hour or so to roam the museum as we wanted, and then we would be called back and board the bus home. Most of us were excited for this day, because we were excused from all of our other classes for the entire school day. I think it was on a Thursday, and we got to the museum probably at about 8:30 a.m. It probably took about 20 minutes to get there from school. After arriving, our whole class took the tour, which lasted several hours. It was fun, but got a little bit long. There were several times that we stopped and all sat down, and people spoke to us. When it ended, I was told that we could get any food that we wanted there. They had a cafeteria with a couple of different options, and I remember overhearing a couple of kids in my class saying that they were going to get food from a restaurant that was just down the street from the museum. I watched them walk for the exits. We weren't supposed to do that, but it would be pretty easy to sneak out, because the cafeteria was kind of down a hallway, and our teacher obviously had to stay in the cafeteria to watch us. I didn't really like any of the options there, so I decided to go out and get some food. I walked down the hallway to the lobby, and right out the door, I saw the guys who I had overheard walk to the left, and I decided to go to the right. We were downtown, so there were lots of good options for food all over the place. I knew that we had the rest of the day to roam the museum when the lunch break was done, so I wasn't in too much of a hurry. I walked down the street looking for a cool place. I ended up going a couple of blocks over, and finally, I found a place that seemed good. I went inside and got something small. When I left, I just remembered that there was this one guy standing right outside of the shop. I went back to the sidewalk and started walking, and as soon as I did, the man followed. When I turned to go up a few blocks, the man was right behind me. We were the only two people walking in this particular area of the city. At one point, a couple of other people passed by, but the guy remained about 10 feet back. It took about 5 minutes, but I made it back to the museum. The man was still like 10 feet behind me. I went inside. The guy started to walk up, but he did not follow me in. When I got inside and saw him still standing out there, I felt relieved. I'm not sure what that guy was doing, blatantly following me down the street, but I didn't like it at all. I got back to the cafeteria and afterwards explored the museum. Pretty soon, it was time to go back, and we all boarded the bus to go home. It was a great feeling knowing that when we got back to school, we would just be in our classroom for maybe 5 minutes and then get to go home. However, when we got back to the school, our bus was parking out front, and we were all about to get off. I was casually looking out my window and saw a car pull into the school parking lot and drive past our bus. I looked to the driver's seat, and it was the same guy who had followed me on the sidewalk. He didn't look at me, but I was freaking out. I had no idea who this guy even was. We all went inside the school and back to our classroom. A very short time later, the bell rang and school was over for the day.
Shit.
I rode the bus home from school back then, and
I just got real nervous. Because the thing that popped into my head was the guy follows you there to school. School just got done. So kids are coming outside the school. And I really thought he was just about to just like everybody. Jesus.
always a huge stampede of kids going to the buses at the end of the day. We would only have less than 10 minutes to leave class, get all of our things from our locker, and then board the bus before it left. I tried my best to blend in with the other kids. Luckily, I had a sweatshirt in my locker, and I put it on and put the hood over my head as far as it would go. I kept my head down and walked up the school to my bus. I got on my bus, and all of the school buses pulled out of the parking lot around the same time. I was just hoping that the guy didn't know which bus I was on and wouldn't follow us home. I kept my eye out the window and behind us, but I never saw him again. Looking back, I should have told somebody about it when I was followed in the city, like a teacher, but I didn't. I'm just happy I never saw the guy after that, though.
I hope no other kids saw him. You should have told somebody before y'all went back to the school. Because now he knows where the school is. And Lord only knows what his intentions are.
This happened back when I was a kid. I think I was about 12 years old. There was a field trip to watch some play in a theater that you could sign up for. I didn't have a particular interest in going to plays, but I was interested in getting out of school for a few hours. I signed up along with my best friend, and we were both going together. The field trip didn't take up the whole day. It took about 3 hours. Anybody?
Shit. I gotta check my nose. Hold on. Fuck. Hey, real quick. What would you do if you was home and you knew like 100%, you were sure 100% that you was home alone and you sneezed and as clear as day you heard somebody say, oh, bless you. What you doing? And you don't recognize the voice. Jesus.
The school who signed up could go, and there was a limited number of spaces. I think the limit was about 40 kids, probably because they could only fit that many on the bus. There were also 2 teachers who went with us to supervise. We left the school pretty early in the day. I think it was the beginning of second period. We rode to the city where the theater was. It was a really cool old-fashioned theater that was really fancy. We all went inside, and then went to our section of seating, which was actually really close to the stage. There was even an upper deck in that theater, so we had really good seats. Something kind of weird happened shortly after sitting down, though. We got to our seats maybe 15 minutes before the show started. Other people were going to their seats, and people were just talking and stuff. I looked around the theater several times, and at one point, I saw a guy and made eye contact with him because he was staring at me. He was giving me like a crazy look that was somewhat creepy as well.
Jesus.
I looked away as fast as I could. I told my friend, and we both looked back at him, and to my surprise, the guy was still staring. He still had a really creepy look on his face, and we both looked away after that. We agreed that it was really weird, and we tried our best not to look in his direction again. I just focused on the stage after that. The play started, and the first part of it was really good. I remember enjoying it a lot more than I expected to. My friend did as well. And when the first intermission came, this was a time that we could get up to get refreshments or use the restroom. Many of us didn't because we were in 6th grade and most of us kids didn't have any money. But at the intermission, I did have to go to the bathroom, so I got up from my seat.
Jesus.
My friend stayed there. I walked out into the hallway outside the auditorium. The bathroom was just down the hall and across. When I was done, I walked back outside to see the weird creepy guy was standing.
Where the teachers at? Where the teachers at? Huh? Teachers suck ass.
Blocking the doorway back to the theater. He wasn't looking directly at me, but I didn't really want to walk right past him, so instead, I walked back inside the bathroom. I was just hoping to stand in there for like a minute and wait till the guy would move, but as I was in there, the bathroom door opened. I saw the creepy guy was entering. I quickly walked over and went inside one of the stalls. The guy walked closer, and then he tried opening the stall that I was in. I was shocked at what he was doing. Sure, he had seemed like a creep, but now this was crazy. I started yelling, and when I did, the guy just started banging on the door. Then, the bathroom door opened again. The guy quickly went into the stall that was right next to mine as somebody else entered the bathroom. When he did, I left and basically sprinted right out of there and back into the theater. I went back to my seat and told my friend all about it. We tried our best not to look in the direction of the guy again, but at one point, I just couldn't help myself. When I did, he wasn't in his seat. I didn't see him for the rest of the play, or ever again either.
You should have told an adult or somebody. Or you should have just ran out that whole shit. He was a little perverted. I'm not gonna hold you. That was a little pervade. How you say? Perveracious. No? Okay. Alright, you know. It's a school field trip. It's a school field trip. So what? Where was the security at? Where were the teachers at? Where were the people that were supposed to be in charge of protecting these kids? Because it seemed like they were just non-existent. Either that, or they didn't get paid enough, or they was in cahoots. One out of the three. Or all three. Because that shit was just ridiculous. I'm glad they got seatbelts now for the school buses. But I mean, if you're going on a field trip, just stay with the group. I don't know about that. I mean, it's tempting to drift off, but like, just stay with the group. That's it. It's just all you gotta do. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Please keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.